Avebury Stone Circle in Wiltshire. This stone circle dates from 2600 to 2100 BC. It's one of the largest stone circles you will see today in Britain. Many thousands of people come here every year to marvel at its wonderful stones and its ancient sites surrounding it. But Avebury itself holds a totally different title, and that is it's become the centre of the crop circle phenomenon since 1988 to the present day. Many of the most amazing formations appear around Avebury every year. But at this moment in time, in April, we are waiting and looking quite vigorously around the whole area for the first ones to appear.
This enormous mound is a landmark around which numerous crop circles have appeared since 1988.
Every season starts with great anticipation in the Wiltshire landscape, especially when we have sites like this at Silbury Hill, the largest earthen mound in Europe. Its first phase dates from 2600 BC, but its purpose was a mystery, very much like the mysteries you will see in this film.
And so it begins. The first formation at Wiltshire appears at Woodway Bridge on the 26th of April.
The month of April is always full of great anticipation within the crop circle community. It is the first month to actually witness crop circles because the height of the crop is just right for the first canvass of the season.
The Kennet and Avon Canal attracts many types of watercraft and barges to the area, and as you can see, many of these reflect the spirit of the crop circles.
The bridge itself lies in the Vale of Pusey, so it really was a marvellous place to have the first formation of the season.
These shots show how well defined a formation can be in older crop. We all had to wait nearly a month after the Woodway Bridge design for this delightful formation in young barley at West Overton. We can see at this early stage in the season, late May, the crop recovers rapidly, leaving just a brushed outline of the original design.
Wimborne Hill is regarded as a classic Neolithic causeway camp or enclosure. It was first inhabited between the years of 3700 BC up to 3000 BC in the first phase of the Neolithic period. The hill itself would have been surrounded by a wooden landscape, as Wimborne Hill is made up of chalk, as this would have been a striking white beacon through the ancient trees.
The hill has become the home to formations such as this one, which formed on the 7th of June, the first of the large designs in Wiltshire. It was quickly named the Serpent, as it seemed to coil itself around this square frame. The floor pattern was not extraordinary for barley, but its location, set high on the slopes of Wimborne Hill, was far more dramatic, as it can easily be seen from some distance away. There was a multitude of different ideas regarding the representation of this design, but the inner shape is very similar to the Maltese cross, the symbol that represented the Knights Templar of the 13th and 14th centuries. Whatever the design was trying to portray, it certainly kick-started the 2003 season in Wiltshire. We thoroughly look forward to seeing formations within a barley crop, and the Wimborne Hill formation was a prime example of how wonderful designs can look in such a delicate medium. The overall size was over 200 feet in diameter and contained small outline circles which also appeared around the outer edge of the pattern. It was not only the scale of the design that took us by surprise, but also its elegance. Normally we expect smaller designs to appear, but this formation belonged to more impressive patterns we usually see in July. It was ahead of its time and a welcome sight for one of the slowest starts of the season.
Right, so we're all kitted up and we're on our way to the Ogborne St George. We're going to fly it first before we see it on the ground. It was reported this morning and we've located it already on the map, and it could be one of the most remotest locations we've actually been to, so that's going to be very exciting for us, but to see it from the air is going to be even more amazing, I think, so can't wait.
Ogborne Down was undoubtedly one of the most remote locations I've had the pleasure to visit. It was so remote that we had a 30-minute walk to reach the design, quite a contrast to our effortless 20-minute flight to find it. The formation was set in a natural bowl in the middle of the down, and what a formation it was. After taking several telephoto shots from the hill, we walked down to the design and took these pole shots from within the formation. The atmosphere within the circle was quite surreal. We could hear nothing except the songs of birds from the nearby trees. It felt like we were in the middle of nowhere, and we were lucky enough to be among the few to witness this mysterious offering from the circle makers. The formation also didn't disappoint us from the ground, as the crop showed no sign of disturbance with no obvious signs of human construction. It was clear the crop was recovering due to its immaturity, which created this brushed look you see in these images. The crop doesn't take long to grow back to its original position, especially in young wheat, so time spent in the formation at this stage in the season is of the essence. You could almost taste the excitement at Opon as we meditated over the experience and considered the circle makers' unpredictability in their choice of locations. The journey back to the car gave us plenty of time to reflect on this stunning formation and why it was so well hidden.
What a great site this is. We're actually at the avenue here, and the new formation at Wading Hill is just over the hill. It overlooks Avebury itself. Now, on the night of the summer solstice, the 21st of June, everyone was celebrating around the stones, and literally hundreds of people were celebrating, and nobody saw a thing, right under everyone's noses. Very unusual, but once again, this is all part of crop circling.
This was a classic case of the phenomenon's daring and sometimes downright sneaky antics, as Avebury was awash with people on the night of the summer solstice, June the 20th. And we can see from these images that this was no small event, attracting more visitors than any other crop circle this season. The design had a splendour that I have never before witnessed in these slopes. The quality of the crop of this hillside has never been up to the standard of the surrounding fields, but the barley was quite exquisite, creating a gentle feel to the entire formation. It was without doubt the best formation on Wading Hill since the appearance of the crop circles in Wiltshire. The dominating feature of this formation is the yin-yang design. This pattern symbolises the connection between the earth and the moon, so there is an evident connection to the solstice here. On a deeper level, it also represents the balance of masculine and feminine energies and the way in which we can use these principles to transform our lives. I believe that the circle makers are trying to show us a path to enlightenment. There is a correlation between the 2002 formation which appeared at Green Street, on the other side of Avebury. It would appear that there is a continuing communication taking place here. I felt the connection fascinating. Ultimately, the circle makers are trying to show us a lack of harmony and balance in our lives. On the morning of the 21st of June, even though hundreds of people were present in Avebury for the solstice celebrations, only the standing stones witnessed the formation of this design.
So there we have it, an amazing formation which eluded everyone, including these stones. But perhaps they know who the circle makers are. If only they could talk. I'm actually now walking down the main access track on Windmill Hill. Now we're actually at the second formation here to the left of me, and it's in beautiful barley. Now barley for me personally is my favourite crop of the season. It's actually at its peak now, and as the wind flows across it, it creates this beautiful waving effect. I'm sure we're going to get some excellent shots later on. But the actual formation itself is a series of crescents, and as you bisect the crescents, I'm sure that there is actually pentagonal geometry inside, which could be the major theme for this year. We're not sure yet, but it could be. But I'm sure it's going to be an exciting formation to see.
You can clearly see the ghost outline of last year's design next to this formation. This was almost certainly not just a coincidence. There must have been a connection between the placement of formations in the fields, and this must be an important criteria for the circle makers at certain locations. This was a wonderful formation in barley, and we were right about the wave effect that the wind creates across the crop. From a filmmaker's point of view, it was an absolute dream to capture. At this stage in the season, barley acts as a fantastic canvas for the crop circle phenomenon. Its delicate nature has all the qualities that are needed to produce a floor pattern of this elegance. However, due to its immaturity, its precision is short-lived, as the crop recovers much faster than young wheat. The resulting shape is a shadow of its former self. On the day we shot these pictures, the floor pattern was at its best, because we arrived soon after its creation. Freshness, vitality, and the ethereal energy are the characteristics of a barley formation. The crop circle community thrives on an event of this nature, as it has a powerful presence in the landscape, which creates this sacred atmosphere befitting an ancient site such as Windmill Hill. This is one of the most spectacular formations in the Avebury area at a place called Town Hill. Town Hill and Mill Hill are the highest points in Wiltshire, at a height of around 900 feet. These hills are steeped in mystery. It is thought that Queen Guinevere and her funeral cortege passed over these hills on their way to meet her husband King Arthur in Glastonbury. From a pole shots, you can clearly see the intricacies inherent in this formation, with the checkerboard effect surrounding the central circle.
But this formation amazingly completed itself over 2 nights. It first arrived on the morning of the 23rd of June, and it almost completed itself the way it was originally planned, apart from one section of crop, this alteration here at this location. This flattened section of crop you see here was actually standing on the morning of the 23rd of June, just like the standing stems you see behind me. But on the morning of the 24th of June, this whole section of crop you see here was flattened, as if the circuit makers had returned and finished the intended design.
The farmers are quite understandably upset about losing several tons of crop when these spectacular formations occur. However, in recent years, some of them have become more sympathetic towards the phenomenon.
Farmers' donation boxes are a very important part of crop circling. The farmer itself has to recoup his lost revenue from the flattened crop, so we always have to be responsible about walking into formations. Therefore, we encourage people to donate a contribution towards the farmer.
We certainly couldn't bring you these images without the kindness of some of the farmers who open their land to the public, so we can all experience the thrill of these beautiful designs at close quarters. This hillside has witnessed other formations in the past and has become a welcome spot for events. After a heavy climb, we arrive at one of the most beautiful locations on the top of Oldbury Castle, as we look down on top of North Down. The most amazing aspect to this formation was it was aligned to 4 tumuli, indicating the real importance to the association of these ancient landmarks. The complexities involved in this design makes it one of the most remarkable formations of the season. This event seemed to be linked to the Normanton Down formation of 2002 at Stonehenge, as they appeared around the same date a year apart. Both also make reference to the continuing association of ancient sites and crop circles. This event has emphasised the connection by its blatant geometric relationship to these 4 ancient burial mounds which are in perfect alignment. This amazing formation creates the illusion of a 5th. I believe it's a very clever message from the circuit makers, highlighting the significance of these ancient sites to the phenomena. This design was extremely intricate, with countless portions of crop creating the impression of an ancient shield pattern, and it was quickly realised that it was the most elaborate of the season so far. The design comprises of a series of tiny rings and semicircles surrounded by several concentric rings. This is a prime example of a formation that can only be fully appreciated from the air. This photographic pole, which is easily assembled, is one of the items of equipment which we take into the field. We also have video glasses that enable us to see exactly what we're filming. The essential thing to remember with the kit is that everything has to be extremely light. Carrying heavy equipment in hot weather is no fun, and certain locations can be quite arduous to reach. This formation took us to a location that has never before been walked on by any crop circle enthusiasts, a place close to other locations where later formations would appear. I was grateful to be one of the very few to witness this amazing creation surrounded by these ancient hills. Here we witness the obvious association with these barrows as we travel down the axis and once more appreciate the complexity of this formation in the way it was intended to be seen. The Green Street Formation is just one of the many formations that have graced this field, which lies just outside of the stone circle of Avebury. Various patterns have formed here, but the appearance of this particular design raised questions about the emergence of the pentagram.
The formation itself lies within the northeast side of the stone circle of Avebury. The design itself is made up of pentagonal geometry, very similar to the design at Silby Hill in 2000.
The pentagonal design has a wonderful clean-cut floor pattern with many intricate details within each section of crop.
So here we have two typical examples of the centres you see today in the larger formations around Avebury. This is the standing centre with display plants around the tuff. But as I move forward, we come to the older variety of centres, which were seen in the late 80s. But these are two centres are very important in understanding the complexity the circuit makers are trying to show us within the formations.
Oh, it's like an Islamic pattern, I think.
Excellent. So you just use that camera to get above. You won't have any of it above.
We'll fly it later on.
All right.
Our specialised equipment attracts a lot of interest, as we were often asked to demonstrate the benefits on site.
Oh wow, you can see it really. You just move it around a bit. Oh my god.
These images are extremely important in showing the formation close to the ground. It provides the human viewpoint of the experience, but we wish we were 20 feet tall at times. This type of formation lends itself well to the pole photography because of its busy design and its very neat floor construction. The representation of the pentagram has been a theme for some time in the Wiltshire landscape. The design bears an uncanny resemblance to the 2000 Silby Hill Stars formation. Within sacred geometry, the pentagram represents the need to balance the five senses. Maybe these people have done just that. It was one of the best I have had the pleasure to witness in Green Street Field over many seasons.
Wow, that's quite amazing. Well, it's 8:45 in the morning and it's taken about half an hour to find this, but we have a major formation here at Avebury Truslow. I'm standing here at Crook's Plantation and I can see it's a very oblique shot of it, but I think there's some major designs inside. Could be a running theme for this year perhaps, but I'm sure we're in for a lot of surprises.
It certainly was a surprise. On the roadside we didn't expect a design of this nature. The five-pointed star once again established itself as a dominant theme for the 2003 crop circles in Wiltshire. It seems to be a clear indication that the circle makers wish us to take notice of the importance of this shape. It is almost implying that we were frustrated with the ignorance we show regarding the balance of the pentagram can bring to our lives. The star was centred within an enormous wheel. This became apparent once viewed from an elevated position of the video camera at the top of the pole. The straight paths, which resembled the spokes of the wheel, separated joint crescents, which resided on the apex of each point of the star. This created a powerful emotional response as the patterns facilitated visitor interaction. The whole design had a very strong atmosphere to it. This particular field had once again been a focus for formations. The moire pattern also appeared here during the 2000 crop circle season. Are the circle makers trying to demonstrate that not only form and shape are the importance here, but also relevance to the choice of location?
Eastfield and its range of hills are celebrated each year by the crop circle community. I personally regard this area as a sanctuary phenomenon, almost like its spiritual home. The reason for this is because of the atmosphere the hills create and the fact that the Eastfield is actually in a natural bowl, but it's surrounded by huge ancient monuments. Whenever a crop circle forms here, it creates that aura, and the people involved are a major part of that experience. On the northern side to Eastfield are a range of hills known as Knapp Hill and Adam's Grave. These Neolithic landmarks are literally hundreds of feet high, providing command and views over the Vale of Pewsey. Eastfield itself is at least 3/4 of a mile in length and has seen nearly 20 different formations over the past 13 years. We stand here today in mid-July on the bottom slopes of Knapp Hill, waiting for the first event in Eastfield. Every year we wait with great anticipation to see what happens in this field, as to my mind this epitomises crop circling.
This design, which appeared on the 14th of July over the hill from Eastfield at Woodbury Hill, was quite groundbreaking as a pattern. Not only was it a surprise from the air, but also on the ground with regard to its floor construction. I'm actually sitting here on the main outer ring of the first section of crop, which is behind me, but also there's a beautiful fan effect feature which is running 90 degrees to the crop, which is actually lying on top of the main outer ring of the entire formation. So this type of effect has been seen before in previous years. The overall construction was extremely ordered. The fan effect in this particular example was one of the neatest I have seen since the formation at Linton Castle, near Swindon in 1996. It's a good idea to pay close attention to the floor lay, as this can give clues to the formation's origin. The design itself was innovative and could be a recurring pattern in the future, and perhaps future designs will develop this example. So here we are again, actually on the ground in the Woodbury Hill formation, and we have 4 directional lays where I'm actually sat here. We have the lay coming in here just into the shot, we have another directional lay running off behind me, and we have another directional lay running in this direction, which makes up the outer perimeter of the square itself, and then just to the side of it is another lay coming in from this section of crop to the left of me. So this makes the whole formation extremely complex with all these directional lays. This formation was received with great excitement because, as we can see from the elevated position, the clean-cut angles of the crop were not typical of patterns in Wiltshire. Because of the strange stories surrounding Woodbury Hill, there is always an unearthly atmosphere associated with any designs which form in the shadow of these slopes. From the ground, the design was totally incomprehensible. The various angles of the design created some very nice features, but it was clearly meant to be fully appreciated from the air.
So here we are standing with our backs towards the latest formation in Wiltshire. It lies only 6 miles south of Stonehenge at a place called the Woodford Villages. The site itself is called Camp Field, but here we have 2 different examples of the contrasting styles we see each year in Wiltshire. Behind me we here see the single circle and also a more complicated design to the right.
From the aerial perspective, we can see that the circle makers have produced 2 very different shapes in close proximity to one another.
The farmer is actually in the field talking to our colleague Mark about whether these formations are actually genuine or not, and he's actually showing the floor construction as we speak.
From within the formations, the larger design would appear to be the more complex, but it was not the case in this instance, as this shot shows one of the many standing centres in the solitary circle.
There's kind of a strange story attached to this because only a month earlier we arrived down here trying to find a formation which wasn't around here at the time on a wild goose chase. But now we arrive back here a month later to find 2 events in the same field as where we stopped. So it kind of put a chill up the spine, you might say, but also adds to the whole mystery of why these things seem to appear in places where you've been before.
This formation, which is located close to the main Devices Road, exhibits a small satellite circle, which is almost touching the narrow ring. It creates the illusion of an orbiting planet or moon. Dozens of formations have appeared here since 1990, and the concentric rings here are reminiscent of past designs. From the ground, the structure of the design was visually impressive. So here we are in the brand new formation at Beckhampton near Avebury, and this is the return of the simple form circles. We have a single circle in the middle with concentric outer rings, and an unusual feature here is a very small narrow ring on the outer edge of the inner circle. Here we can see how narrow they are. When we see them from the air, these features become so faint it can be difficult to make them out. From an aerial perspective, it appears that the satellite circle is surrounded by another very faint impression. This is in fact an ancient barrow whose presence has diminished over the centuries of ploughing, but it can still be made out. Could this placement be a mere coincidence? In my opinion, it is the circle maker's intent to make us more aware of a connection to our ancestors. This very articulate outer ring was the most narrow I have inspected over the period of my research. It was a wonderful, well-defined formation, which was simple in its form, comprising many familiar features previously seen throughout the Wiltshire countryside, but it was nonetheless welcome. Standing in the central circle of the main formation, and we have a beautiful clockwise rotational lay, and this formation actually formed this morning, and it's the freshest we've been into so far this year. But this particular centre is actually raised to create this sort of nest effect, which is quite exquisite, and it's nice to see this so fresh in Wiltshire. The design comprised of 6 concentric rings, the outermost of which is only inches wide, with a small outer circle creating the effect of an orbiting body. This was a clever design, using the ancient landmark on soil that was once home to an early farming community. Adam's Grave, an ancient chamber barrow you see behind me, is the most prominent barrow in the whole of Wiltshire. It stands several hundred feet high above Eastfield itself, but legend has it that if you walk around the barrow 7 times, a giant emerges out of the barrow itself. I think you have to agree that these hillsides are most befitting to crop circle locations. Around the quiet leafy lanes of West Stowell, this incredible formation appeared, suggesting that we were witnessing a new type of floor construction for formations in Wiltshire. Never before have we seen so many different types of centre throughout the single design. There were 13 examples of this in the interior section alone, and at least 7 others in the peripheral shapes. So here we are actually in one of the sections of the West Stowell formation, and we're looking at a new development in the construction of the centres. And here we have a beautiful basket centre. Some people say a crater centre, a basket centre, a nest centre. So this is the central part here, and you can see the plants are beautifully woven round and extremely tight, and it would be very, very difficult to know how anyone would have constructed this. So it's a very, very unusual feature. We have these beautiful interwoven sort of stalks, as you can see, raised up from the floor pattern itself. So yes, here we are on the ground, further on the ground, and we're looking at this beautiful, exciting feature here, with this beautiful flowing sort of pattern around me, very much like water. This formation also had its own satellite circle on the outer ring, very much like the Beckhampton event. Alpine Hill and its White Horse is one of my favourite locations for crop circles. Many formations have appeared here since 1991, and this latest formation is like a huge cosmic spider in its web. Extremely unusual in the nature of this design, and was appreciated on the ground because of its overall quality and scale. Yes, what is very interesting about this design is that we're standing in a clump of circles which make up a yin-yang shape, which also makes up this spider shape as well. And it seems to be in what it looks like a web with radiating lines coming out of the spider, surrounded by a ring of circles. But the whole thing's about 250 feet across, and it's nice to see it below the White Horse here. The radiating lines in the design gave the impression of a web and a large-bodied spider sat ready and waiting. It could have picked its victim from many of the crop circle enthusiasts that chose to visit this impressive design in the late July sun. Its meandering paths, which enclosed the larger circles, closely resembled other formations that have appeared in this area over the last couple of years. These shapes appeared to represent the yin-yang, once again demonstrating a theme within the circle makers' designs. In all, 32 equally sized circles were spaced evenly around the circumference of the formation, and the lay of the crop was extremely flat. Possibly once part of the Savernake Forest, Scrobes Wood became home to this amazing pattern. This particular formation resided some way out of the usual centre of activity.
I'm now walking in the outer ring of this extraordinary formation at Park Farm, and we can see here on the ground we have this wonderful plaiting effect, which is the first we've seen in Wiltshire today. But basically we have two layering effects coming from the right-hand side and the left-hand side, but they're both laid over each other, and this carries on around the entire ring, and it's a very, very interesting feature and nice to see.
These 6 centres are the most extraordinary centres we have seen in any formation which has appeared over the last 13-14 years. These 6 raised nest centres, which are so tightly woven that one cannot prise apart, especially the middle section here, which is beautifully woven into like a curve. And we have this on every single one here, and this really is an exciting event. So here we have parallels with the West Stowell formation. In that formation we saw centres very, very similar to this, with the raised nest effect, with these middle sort of egg shapes which either can be curled round or are actually in a sort of a ring in themselves. But this is a brand new feature we've seen this year, and there could be a new wave in constructing formations, especially with the centres. It was another groundbreaking formation, not merely for its form, but for the extraordinary floor construction, which appears to have taken a quantum leap in its complexity, the most interesting of the season. I am confident we shall see this again in the future. This was a fantastic offering, which none of us had expected in such an unlikely location. It's a shame that only a few people visited it, as it boasted several features rarely experienced within a formation of this size. In the sleepy backwaters of the Wiltshire countryside, this small but well-proportioned multi-petal design formed. There was no sound to be heard but the clatter of our equipment as we took in this formation, roasted in the midday sun.
Crop circles come in all shapes and sizes and complexities. We always enjoy the huge, massive designs and celebrate them in each year in all different ways. This one here at Broad Hinton is a nice example of a small, multiple flower pattern. Very personal, very intimate, and a very quiet location, and we always enjoy these just as much as the huge ones.
There was nothing particularly original about the design. We have been used to seeing similar patterns over the last 10 years, but its location and styling gave it a peaceful atmosphere.
I stand here today on top of Birderop Down. We've just arrived here from Broadhinton and we can see the difference between the two formations. At Broadhinton we had the smaller Flower of Life, but this one here at Barby Castle is much, much bigger, but the two are kind of connected in a way.
This design is again nothing new to the crop circle community and is almost a clone to the Foxford formation from 1994. Overlooking the Velapusy, this gently sloping wooded hillside could tell a tale or two about crop circles. It has been a hotspot since the early days of crop circling in Wiltshire and once again has hosted a delightful formation, this one taking on the twists and turns of a giant serpent. Serpentine formations are few and far between, so I was particularly glad to have caught this one, located on a beautiful spot in the heart of the crop circle country.
Finding ourselves back at the same location of crop circles is quite a common occurrence. This is the second formation to appear at Woodbury Hill, and we're actually in the top circle here looking at a very interesting feature. This small pathway runs in from the anti-clockwise rotation and runs straight up into the centre, almost like it has to mark itself out before it actually creates the circle itself.
The scale and design surprised all of us, as the original reports gave no mention of the impressive size. The atmosphere here was calming, and I was enhanced by a picturesque backdrop of Woodbury Hill.
Snaking pathways, meandering serpents, these are all part and parcel of the history of crop circle designs. This one at Woodbury Hill is no exception. This pathway goes on for several metres behind me and ends up at this beautiful head circle, just at the top of Woodbury Hill. And it's a very, very interesting design. It's been seen on a few occasions before. I can think of one in 1994, but once again we have the return of the serpents in 2003.
This event, with its snaking paths and arrowhead, bears an uncanny resemblance to the Great Serpent Mound of Ohio, which is called the Great Spirit. It was thought that this was the embodiment of the sun and the moon, and the so-called creator of radiating light. There was plenty of radiating light as we experienced another gem at Woodbury. We all puzzled over why it had such a distinctive location within the field, as if its placement had been at this precise angle. And although its close proximity to the first event here, it was completely different, similar in design and with a more traditional feel.
Unusual features information are becoming far more frequent. I'm now standing on the apex of this strange arrowhead, which is in the second formation. The first one is just behind me here to my right. Arrowheads have been seen before on numerous occasions in formations, some of them pointing to locations, some of them not. We just have to speculate on where this is pointing to.
On further analysis, the arrowhead appeared to be pointing off into the distance towards the Westby White Horse, where the first reported event of this country occurred in 1980. Could this have been intentional? The many and varied messages that these formations appear to convey draw people to them in wonderment, seemingly affecting individuals on an emotional and spiritual level.
The Velapusy has a rich and varied history, with its high hills like the ones you see behind us, and its sleepy villages, which produce a contrasting and beautiful landscape for all of us to enjoy. In 1878 AD, King Alfred the Great, who defeated the Danes, owned much of the land you see here, and also owned Savernake forests, which stretched from Marlborough down to Pusey. It was a lot different landscape in those days, but now the crop circles add a whole new dimension to the whole experience.
Back at Eastfield in its surrounding hills, we have a brand new formation here. We've just arrived and everyone's very, very excited, and it's just below me here, and we're just about to go down in the field and see exactly what we have.
We waited and waited, and it finally arrived. The late show from the circle makers created this scallop design, making us scratch our heads as we wondered what it could possibly represent. Many people arrived to carry out ground research, taking samples and recording their findings.
Once again, Eastfield surprises us with this amazing formation, freshly constructed this morning. The very night this formation formed, many people were up on the hilltops looking down from Adam's Grave and Knapp Hill, as these hills are notorious for night watches. Not one person saw anything form throughout the entire night. So once again, Eastfield continues the mystery.
The range of hills surrounding Eastfield are great lookout posts for any nocturnal activities in the area. But alas, on the night of this formation's creation, the circle makers were one step ahead. They displayed their cunning as design formed, eluding the watching eyes on the hill. It's a mystifying shape, displaying a three-dimensional effect from the air by the effects of two rows of these S-shapes on adjacent sides to the square. It works extremely well, with the floor construction meandering around these patterns. The memories of Eastfield past formations flooded back. This was enhanced by the number of people that were in the formation at the time we arrived. I felt it was just like the old days. Many people were dowsing and discussing the quality of the design. For me, this event had captured the essence of crop circling, but I felt the formation had just arrived just a little too late for the crop. It was a photogenic formation and created some interesting angles for us to shoot in the early afternoon sunshine. Almost a week later, this sister formation appeared in Southfield, just across the road. This one, however, had all the artistry the Eastfield design lacked. It was far more articulate and had a better quality of construction. From the air, we can clearly see that this formation had overlaid the ghost of the 2002 design. Owing to this particular dry, hot summer, the season was coming to an end much earlier than anticipated. We have seen numerous and contrasting crop circle formation from the 2003 season. Some of good quality and some not so good, but this particular event at Walker's Hill for many reasons stood head and shoulders above the rest. If any formation were to challenge the Swallows, it would have been the North Down Shield. But we end this season's reports on this formation, as this was the highlight or curtain closer in our opinion.
Wow, we've just arrived on top of Walker's Hill. This is a beautiful summer's evening. From first glance, it looks like three birds in flight. It's a magnificent formation, and we're just about to go down and see exactly what we have.
An exquisite formation, as the proportions of the swallows were very lifelike, and its positioning on the landscape, which had been very cleverly considered, gave the illusion that the birds were taking flight. The floor pattern was one of the neatest in Wiltshire, with the layer of the crop beautifully controlled to create the wings of each bird. Not only that, but the diminishing size of the circles echo the same perspective as the swallows, creating harmony in the design.
Yeah, this really is the most durable location I've actually been to this year. It's a great shame to leave it on such a wonderful evening, and we contemplate on whether this could be the last one of the season.
The ambience inside the design was very different to many of the formations we have witnessed this year. It was very calming and restful. I could have stayed there all day, meditating on its power and presence.
So these three birds in flight, in their natural bowl, are really magnificent to see. The actual atmosphere inside is something I haven't experienced this year, but the overall design is totally a new direction in crop circle patterns. And I think that this could be a new wave for the future. So here I am at Cher Hill Monument at the end of a tremendous season. And what a season it's been, but a little bit out of the ordinary. It all started at Windmill Hill on the 7th of June in tremendous barley. But also we had a tremendous formation as well at Ogbourne St George. This really was an exquisite formation.
This has got to be one of the highlights of the season and the most remote formation in recent years. The shield was the most intricate, with a powerful message about its placement in relationship to ancient landmarks. This overlooked design resembled the angel in 2001, which appeared just over the hill from the shield. How could we forget the swallows, probably the most innovative design in recent seasons?
So what are we to make of the 2003 season? Certainly a season of contrasting styles, especially around the Avebia, where we had a lot of formations with pentagonal geometry. This was the running theme. There were a lot of key formations and a lot of groundbreaking formations this year. But also, we all enjoy the whole human experience, the people coming together, enjoying what these tremendous designs are giving us. So let's look forward to 2004 to see exactly what we have next in this whole expanding mystery.